hear music playing.
Okay. Let's see. Let's sign into YouTube. we're incorporating into the show here.
Oh wait,
So,
Dog. You know what? I just was informed that thankfully the uh, the guys in the tech room have informed me that the opening audio was not captured. So what we
nice.
are going to do is we are going to do it all over again. So if you're watching on Facebook, you
I had
heard
the
this
phone off.
already. If you're
This is
not,
sweet.
then
This
you
is awesome.
didn't. So we're going to do it all over again just for you. All right? And this is how we're going to do it. So thank goodness
I'll tell you what. While you're
Dominic
doing
and
it, you
Xavier
got to
were
mirror
there.
your background because your background's backwards.
Wait, it should be mirrored.
I don't know. Just looking on the YouTube. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, you two. Oh, look at that. Well, it is mirrored. So we're
Or
just
like I don't know. It's
solving. We're
mirrored the
just
wrong way. I don't know.
we're just solving technical problems all over the place. All right, so I'll do that.
Since we're hitting a restart on this one, I
Uh,
was just gonna let it ride.
yeah,
But
why not? Sure. Video and mirror my video is actually on. I'll take it off, and you tell me. Did that just fix it? I think it just fixed it.
let's see.
So usually it's the other
We're still in the
way,
delay.
but
Working through the delay.
well, I don't know. It's fixed now, I think.
There we go.
So you're
You're
getting
all
an
set, you're all
extra.
set on you're set on YouTube now.
You're getting you're getting an extra bit of inside baseball right now. Okay. The guys tell me the audio's now on.
Mine's not mirrored anyway, but this is actually the left field line, but I look like I'm on the right field line.
So what do we do? Do we go
Okay.
back? Okay, so basically what you missed
You should
is
just keep going, I think.
Monday Night Baseball. Diamond Diehards is on. We're doing this on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook as always, but the Facebook page, not the Facebook group.
If you made it this far, we shouldn't torture you with the links again.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Dog's probably right. And let's see, Twitter/Periscope.
Twitter? Yeah, Twitter's good.
That's an easy one. Like you just like you're sitting there leafing around Twitter. You're like, Twitter
There it is.
sucks, and let me just go, check this out. So and again, download the podcast. We need the podcast subscribers too. Like on iTunes, if you have your phone, you go to the podcast app, find Diamond Diehards there, and then subscribe and listen back. And if you are interested in doing some business with us, we're interested in doing business with you. I think that might be next show. You'll probably hear our first personalized ads coming on there to help
Nice.
support the podcast. So we are
Nice.
working all kinds of angles. And wait till you see when we kick this into high gear and Dog and I start leafing through our roller dexes, as my princess would say, and we start laying out some really good guests for you. Okay, so we did all that. Diamond Diehards is on, blah, 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 and Dog with the veteran of the day.
Veteran of the day. All right. So, First Sergeant Elizabeth Cornejo is the owner of Cali, the winner of the 2020 Dogs on Deployment Military Pet of the Year contest. In 2012, while assigned to service in Japan, First Sergeant Elizabeth Cornejo had a vertebral dissection resulting in a stroke, which sounds crazily bad, right? Something in the spine there, whatnot. They recovered. Shockingly, the military doctors couldn't figure out what's wrong with her. So I just said, just kind of keep driving on. Well, the next year it comes back again, and the artery starts to dissect again. So they catch that, and they realize they need to bring her off for active duty and put her into what's called a warrior transition unit, which is kind of basically for wounded warriors and whatnot as they do long-term rehab. In this case, she was down in El Paso, Texas. I don't know, trying to figure out what was wrong
Oh,
with her.
man.
Put her into what's such a drastic change, brought on depression to her because basically she went from running a unit to being stuck in a hospital, and then she adopted Callie, who's a part lab, part German Shepherd, so a dog already sounds like a hoot, from the El Paso Animal Shelter, and basically helped turn her outlook around on life. So congratulations and thanks to both of you for your service, for Sergeant Cornejo. Serving in the Army, and Callie serving the first sergeant. So good job all around, and I'm sure Rizzo will have a cute pick in there. So in our links.
Basically, if Dog sent me a good pick, then we're gonna have a good pick in there.
I sent the good pick. Sent the good pick. We actually did some homework on this one.
Good job at a big spot. That's Dougie.
Nope.
Ironically, me saying that instead of you.
Always.
Okay, so where are we at? Hot stove Monday night. You're maybe watching you got the football game on TV, and you got Dog and I up here on the live stream, and you have the volume up here. Hopefully you're on a thing where you could actually hear the volume for us, and you didn't just throw in the towel in the beginning. And if you didn't, we appreciate that. We resemble ourselves now a little bit more, and we could start rolling into this. Okay, dog. Luis Rojas will be back as manager of the Mets, and I keep saying like I was gonna, we didn't really have like a regular pre-show meeting today, the dog and I, but what we did have was 100 texts back and forth for show prep, sharing links. What do we want to talk about? Whatever.
Save
And
it for the show. Save it for the show. That's all I got.
Yeah, and
Fine. That's the last time to do homework.
So here
my
I
homework.
am, like I'm trying to say to myself, I'm like, I don't want to be so Met centric. First of all, I'm not a Met fan. I'm not a Met hater. I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah, you're a Yank fan. That's fine.
Yeah,
It's
and
all right. Second richest team in New York. Yeah,
yeah.
it's all right.
So that's fine, right?
Some resources.
You don't have the resources of a King George.
King Stevie.
So I wanted to go
Yeah,
like I wanted to become a little less Met centric.
I was actually going to suggest talking Yankees tonight, but we didn't get there in the pregame. But we can roll this. I mean, the Mets obviously did have some topical stuff, right?
But it becomes a
We
problem.
do both.
It's a problem because the Mets are they're the ones making the news here. So
Yeah.
like, what are we supposed to do? Like, not talk about it? And I'm gonna try
We
to like,
do
adjust
maybe do a little
the,
quickie on I'll actually listen to Alderson, so I can kind of go over that a little bit if you want. There wasn't really a lot earth shattering in it. And then maybe we could talk about the other team a little bit.
The main point's this, right? The main point is that Rojas is back, and that Sandy Alderson. It looks like he's not gonna name a GM this year. I wonder why.
Naming a GM, actually, well, he's not going to name a president of baseball operations. They are going to name a GM. So basically, that's like the next rung down.
Okay. You know
Now,
where I'm
could
going.
it be one of his dudes? We just couldn't find anyone else who just wanted to be under Sandy. And Sandy's obviously 73, and he's probably not looking to be the head of baseball operations forever. So I think I know where you're going with this one. But
say it.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you're waiting on Theo, right?
Yeah, that's got to be it.
I mean, they asked. I mean, props to the reporters and props to Sandy for answering it. I mean, that was an obvious question. Is have you talked to Theo? He said basically Theo wants to take a year off. Now, the Mets supposedly we're talking to 6 guys who wanted baseball operations for the richest team in baseball, and nobody wanted to do it. I wonder why that would be. Maybe because it's a 1-year stint before you get fired for Theo.
or moved aside, like you said. I mean, so do they hire a guy who, like, okay, how about this? If the GM turns out to be
I'm a little nervous
guy,
that they're becoming Mets-like.
Well, if the GM
already 1 weekend.
Hold on, but if the GM turns out to be a Theo guy, right? Then we know. Then all the cards are out on the table. But you're right. Kudos to the reporters for asking Sandy a question other than, "Hey, what flavor ice cream is that?"
Hey, Howie, how's the beard? That was a good one. Later on there. Yeah, I mean, obviously a Theo guy would obviously tip the hand on it. My guess is, I mean, this is the problem, right? So the long view is that you want to get Theo in to run the joint. Right? So now looking at what the Mets have, you have effectively a placeholder baseball operations guy, right? Sandy's already said he wanted to have someone else, right? And also now he can't. Right. So he's only going to be here a year, right? You have
no. We don't know that for sure, because if it's a Theo guy,
no, I'm just talking just Sandy. I'm talking
Sandy.
like Sandy.
Just Sandy.
I'm talking Sandy as the head of baseball operations.
Okay, I got you.
So the GM underneath, I'll kind of get back to him in a sec. So he's kind of the guy stuck in the middle, right? And then you have Rojas as the manager. Now, whatever. I mean, Rojas, if he hits a home run with it and he wants to keep him around, fine. If not, that seems to be fairly easy to jettison. But the trick I have right now is, unless you basically get a Theo guy to be the GM, then who are you going to get? right? So basically, if you're the GM, then you're just doing a GM for years. Like I was thinking, like a John Rico, right, who was already saying he's like right hand guy, but he already said he's not one of the GM candidates. So he took him out of that already. It's like that. He would be a guy I'd say you could drop in as a GM and then say, okay, now we're going to slide you over to some other part of the business or something like that. Like you're still within the Met family. He's already stayed under like Brody already as well. So it's like, okay, he's kind of like the placeholder GM. It took
Except
him out of the situation,
except when
which I think would sort of made sense with the whole we're just going to do this for a year and then let Theo put everybody in.
well, they're protecting Rico from shellfire, right?
What's that?
They're protecting Rico from shellfire, right? They're keeping him, letting him hold his spot emeritus, right?
Yeah, he's been protected throughout, and he obviously must be fairly well regarded, right? I mean, especially with the new owner, that he could have said he's gone too, and he wasn't, right? So Cohen's Cohen's at least listening to Alderson, and he's kind of keeping his guys around, at least for now. So the GM spot, I think, that's a real head scratcher now. Because what GM is going to come in there knowing that Theo is going to come in next year, unless he's Theo's guy, in which case it just gets even a little weirder, right? Because you're going to have a GM who's Theo's guy and then the guy who is going to give it up to Theo in a year, but then theoretically still be his boss, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. It's a really convoluted situation from something that actually was not too complicated a week ago. Has now gotten really tricky.
It's a smart move. It's a smart move to just.
I think so.
You're not even punting the first season, but now, like so much, I think is going to be revealed here in what do they do in the free agent market? Do they make, sort of like, if they make a signing like Trevor Bauer, I don't think Theo is going to hate on that, right? If they make a signing like George Springer, he might not like that one as much. I don't know that he would. I don't know if that's the guy that he would be bringing in, because now you're talking about years and term, and you risk like having a Springer in there, and if he's not, if he doesn't fit in the Theo mold, like Theo's not going to throw away pitching. That's the way I see it. If you give him pitching and you're giving him a budget, he's not going to like be jettisoning Mr. Bauer, I think, after a year. I mean, and if he had a good year and you wanted to trade him to somebody and you didn't give him a no trade clause, which he's probably going to get, right?
Yeah.
If he signs him, then it's going to be maybe more difficult to move. But I think a lot remains to be seen with what are they going to do with the signings? Like, how are they going to handle this offseason? They've already started to sign some of these nondescript, lower level free agents, guys who have played in the league that add, good depth in your 20 to 28 man roster part.
I think interesting ones on that. Again, Alderson was asked, are you a player away? Which, realistically the Mets aren't, but like it's something maybe coming in aggressive. You can say, yeah, we get this one guy and some pieces and we can do it. Sandy said no. Right? Now maybe that's setting expectations for himself, right? But it's like, no, we're not a player away. We need some more depth. So kind of to your point, maybe that is it. Maybe they are adding more the 3, 4, 5 guys versus your 1A starter, let's say. And maybe like more depth in the pen or something like that. I don't know. It makes it really interesting right now. I think I have a problem with, like, I don't sit there and say, I've got Alderson in there, Steve Cohen just came in, and we're just going to kind of do some vanilla moves so we don't like offend Theo when he comes in or whatever. Like, to me, it's like the Mets have to kind of go for it as if the guy is not going to be there. You've left a spot for him. I mean, Theo could get blown away, right? The Dodgers could offer him 1% of freaking franchise, and he's going to be like, sorry, Steve. And he's going there, right? So you can't just sit there and take your franchise, your $1 billion franchise, and just say, well, we're going to kind of play it safe to make sure we don't tick Theo off. I mean, I think you have to do it. You have to run it as if you're going to run the team the way you want to.
You don't think it would be a handshake?
If Theo doesn't like it, well, then too bad, Theo.
It's not It's not a handshake under the table agreement that's already done. If you're making those moves,
I don't think Alderson's going to do something crazy that it would be like Theo's like, oh, I'm not coming to this joint now. I mean, there's almost nothing he could do. Like even if you sign Springer, right? Really, he's not going to like take over the Mets for the next 10 years because he has George Springer. I mean, I don't know. I don't see free agent stuff as necessarily being an impediment to Theo kind of coming in.
Oh, you see it.
I do think the GM thing I think is an interesting wrinkle on that.
Well, look, let's
like who do you get to do that now?
Let's just try to put the pieces together to start with, right? The first domino is that Sandy says he's not going to fill that position between him and the GM, whatever director of baseball operation, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
His successor. He's not making a successor to be position, right? Which makes you think he's going to come in, he's going to run it for a year, and then he's going to hand the reins over to somebody else, Theo. Yeah. The second domino to fall is that Rojas gets his 60 games last year, a couple of flubs in there, listen, go back and listen to Diamond Diehards one day, and we'll tell you he made one of the worst moves that a manager made the entire season, right? But still, it's a 60-game season. You let him cut his teeth. He's a respected guy around baseball. The guys
he likes him, plays hard for him.
The guys definitely like him, and he's not going to create any issues in the clubhouse as we saw this year.
Or the media,
right? So he could handle those things. He gets a year. He gets a full year, right?
Yeah.
So you have a pretty, ready-made situation for Theo to come in a year, right? He's got something, more than just a couple of building blocks. He's got something that he doesn't need to tear down, which is a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a way to pick, his own GM. He's got a way to pick his own coach, manager, coaching staff, if he wants. Or if the guys do well this year, he can come in and say, there's nothing wrong with giving these guys a chance to say, you know what, I like what we're doing here. You interview the players, you interview the manager, you interview the guys in the front office, and you find out, like, hey, we're already going on the right track. Sandy got this thing moving in the right direction. I'll put my own stamp on it, but for now we could let this ride out. So, like you said, the temptation always is to just go for it when you're kind of that close, right? And let's face it, and we're still in this point in the off season where we don't know what the rules are going to be, right?
Yeah.
We don't know if there's going to be 7-inning doubleheaders. We don't know if there's going to be an encouragement for doubleheaders to be rescheduled into the schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if people are getting travel delays. We don't know if COVID is going to be an issue where we have to do that. Anyway,
they actually Sandy had a great point on it. They were talking like spring training and stuff. It's like, say they're just rolling the vaccine out, right? So by that point, you're probably getting to where, some high profile folks might be able to get it, whatever. Does baseball wait a month? And say, we'll start May 1.
Well, we know the NBA.
We'll throw in some more of those double.
We know the NBA guys are getting it first.
Hold on, ER Doc.
Hold on.
LeBron needs the first shot.
Hold on, ER Doc. Kevin Durant needs a shot. Wait, he's on the Brooklyn Nets? Who knew that? Wait, the Nets moved to Brooklyn? Yeah. Wait, how did the Nets get all these tests, these COVID tests, when nobody else can get them? When
there's take it from Jersey and New York.
When there's an epidemic, like all around the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, nobody could get a test, and like 12 Nets have gotten 14 tests in 3 days. Like, come on. So we know those guys got the in. Adam Silver's got now. I mean, testing's much more available, and it keeps getting better, like by the day practically, where you get these. You get the quick tests done, and they're unreliable, and then you get the the longer spanning tests, which are more reliable, and we see all kinds of stuff going on with that. So I imagine it's going to continue. I mean, look, now what you're seeing.
We don't know if there's a DH.
Well, right? I know that's a pretty big deal.
How do you structure your team right now? I don't know if Dom Smith can play every day. Right? I mean,
he's playing every day.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, if I'm the manager, that boy is my left fielder.
He's got to be third base. He's He's gonna be third base guy.
And the other big boy polar bear is my first baseman, and my
He's
other,
got soft
well,
hands.
not as big boy is my second baseman McNeil. Now we didn't even talk about Cano getting suspended.
I know.
Okay, I want to try to do this now since we have more at our side. Let's transition into the
Okay.
next segment of Diamond Diehards.
Doo, doo, doo.
There, there, dog. I don't know if you could hear that, but that's
We can
the
barely. Yeah,
that's
it's a
the
little tough to hear.
that's the
It's a
trend.
little
Well,
soft.
I think you can't hear it, but everybody else can. I think you heard it from it blaring through my headphones and then going
Okay.
out over my mic. So you were able to pick that up. Anyway, so we're going to try to do that more efficiently and effectively as we go along here. Um, and that's also our ending little chime there. Thanks to Dominic Rizzo who made those up, the opening
Big
intro
props.
and the charge
Composed
chime.
by.
So okay, so now we have these rules changes that we got to talk about, and we have the Robinson Cano suspension. I mean, the Mets just keep making news. Like we can't avoid it, right? Like so
How much winning can one team do?
right. So how does it? So these things, to me, these things intertwine because you have Cano getting suspended, and I put. So we're also on LinkedIn right now, by the way, and I don't know if we're streaming to LinkedIn. I don't know. Maybe somebody could look on that for us. That's you, Dominic and Xavier. Check the LinkedIn page. They're effectively our producers right now.
Producer engineer in the booth.
Yeah, well,
In
we're
the
not
bed.
we're not quite there yet. But if you Dominic and Xavier, if you're paying attention, go check the LinkedIn page for us, please, and see if we're actually streaming on there. I don't think we have the capability to do that yet. We're pending approval, but we are on LinkedIn. So if you're a LinkedIn person, check us out there, Diamond Diehards. So this intertwines with a lot of stuff for the Mets, and on that LinkedIn, I was just playing around, and I'm like, hey, is the Robinson Cano suspension a good thing for the Mets or a bad thing for the Mets? And I have trouble finding even one way where you could think this is a bad thing. Like they just got rid of him for a year and they don't have to pay him. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's okay. So
You
he
actually
had a
you saved 24 and made 4 from the Mariners this year.
well, I don't know about
The
that.
team's already up 4 million right now.
I don't know.
Oh
I don't
yeah, that was
know. I don't know. I don't
yeah
know if
yeah it is
they don't
yeah
have to pay
yeah
him.
yeah yep.
I don't think they have
No,
to pay him.
but it wasn't a contract offset. It was cash going separately.
Yeah, but are you responsible for that cash if he's suspended? I don't know if how
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah, because it's not an offset to the contract. It's just money going. Each of those legs are separate legs.
Really? But
Yeah.
if
It's like
they
saying you didn't have a player because he couldn't get hurt. I mean, the cash is another component of the trade. It wasn't just we're reducing his salary. You're only paying 16 of his salary. It's the Mets are still paying 24. The Marlins are still paying, or the Mariners are still paying 4 in this case.
so even though the Mets don't have to pay him, the Mariners still have to pay the Mets.
Correct.
Oh my God, who made that deal? That sounds like the Iran deal.
Yes.
The Mariners fly
Hey,
4 million in a.
Robbie, come on, Port St. Lucie. We got some new supplements for you. All you need is one more, baby. One more, and we're done.
How come
48 million in the
how,
pocket.
how come the Mariners flew a private plane to LaGuardia filled with $4 million? Steve Cohen walked
Steve
up
Cohen's
to
like,
the
here,
tarmac.
here, Robbie, have a cigar. Robbie, don't you dare smoke that cigar. You're gonna pop hot for the rest of your life.
Just a couple more years, Robbie. You'll like these cigars, and then you can go
It's a
retire to
good cigar.
whatever. Then you
Oh,
can
it's a
go.
good cigar.
You could go buy an island and live there.
Robbie's still doing okay.
We'll give you a luxury box. That's worth about half your salary.
Exactly. Hey, the Mariners paid for it.
Yeah. Wait, how come the Mariners have a box at City
Mariners boxes
Field?
in field. Thanks for that.
Yeah, Cav probably has access to it.
Exactly.
Love you,
So,
Cav.
so
Okay,
where were we?
so yeah, I think that it was. Look, the Cano suspension does them a huge favor. Now you got to look back at this season and be like, okay, he was good this year,
He was.
right? He played
Might have been a reason.
solid defense. Like his defense didn't seem to slip off as much. Like he seemed
He was
better.
the guy we thought we were trading for.
He seemed better defensively this year than the last couple of years in Seattle. He
Yep.
gave you, I think, a little bit of versatility now and then. He moved over off a second base, but still, he was playing a capable second base.
Yep.
and he was hitting at times the tar out of the ball. And of course, now we must believe that the reason that he did that is because he was juicing again.
Hmm.
So this is
Just like he
his
did throughout his Yankee career.
just that's not confirmed. Um,
Not confirmed. It's an unconfirmed report started by me.
yeah, well, that wouldn't be the first time.
No, it would not.
So so now the Met lineup looks a lot less cluttered. That's one of your DHs that you joke about. Hey, we should have the DH. We already have
Yep.
five of them. Well, now you have four or
Or,
three.
yeah.
But
And their
look, it
defense likely improved. I
makes
think
you
McNeil's a better defender.
have one less decision about what you're doing at second base because you just put McNeil there and you just leave him there. Set it and forget it.
Forget it.
You put Alonso / Dominic Smith at first. What do you want to do at short? You wait and see if you make the Lindor trade. If not, who you want to put there? It doesn't it,
Best guy, Jimenez or Rosario. Whoever
right,
hits more in
right.
seven
And
swing
who
train.
who you putting at third then? Right? A lot easier.
Davis for now.
JD Davis, and then if you get another bat, your other bat could be somebody who helps out either in left field and or third base, right? That a little bit of
Or
versatility
hopefully
there.
center field and move Nimmo over. That would be
Possibly,
ideal.
right? Well, that's another way to do it, right?
That's
Another.
the probably to me the best way to improve the defense up the middle and the hitting.
So,
If you could pull that one off.
your other option then would be to get a second base center field type and then move, McNeil back and forth
McNeil
to
third.
second and third, right? So you could there's
You
a
could do
couple
that.
of ways to do it, but either way, you're kind of improving your versatility. You're giving J.D. Davis and Jeff McNeil, regular spots. I still look. I mean,
Or Davis is traded.
no, I don't.
Possible.
I don't want to trade him.
I think he's down a little bit. I agree. I actually wouldn't trade. He wouldn't. If I got to do something to get a piece, maybe. But I wouldn't be pushing to get rid of him because I think his value is down a little bit off the short season, and I think he's a valuable guy to keep.
I think he's a winning player too.
Yeah, I agree.
He's easy in the clubhouse. He hits righties. He hits lefties. He shows a willingness to play wherever you want him to play, whether he's any
Yeah.
good at it or not. And he
Yeah.
shows a willingness to get better
Serviceable
at
at
what he's
third.
doing.
Yeah, serviceable at third
He's
this year. I mean,
fine.
he was
He's
bad.
fine.
He was not good the year before. He was serviceable this year, I thought.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought he improved in the outfield too. I thought he wasn't so
I
bad.
agree too. Yeah, his arm is way better in the outfield this year.
Yeah.
He
So
worked on a lot.
he's a piece that I don't mind keeping. And you know what? If you supersede him by getting somebody else who's good, better, whatever,
Yeah,
that's
good
great.
backup.
But I don't think he's. I think he's more part of the solution than he's part of the problem. And
Oh, yeah.
eventually, if a guy like Theo comes in and he wants to move guys around and whatever, that he's not. Is he a core piece? No. Is he a good? He's like a different version of what you got sort of from Todd Frazier, and I think that they were looking
Yeah.
to have like Todd Frazier come in again and maybe lead the way and provide a little of that. And like I could see Davis taking over that role. He's not as good a player as Todd Frazier, had been at his peak. But I think he could be a pretty good player. I mean, he's not obviously like defensively, he's
Yeah.
never going to be Todd Frazier, but offensively he could be possibly. So
It's funny. It reminds you a little bit of like a Murphy and Turner for the Mets a couple years ago before the big ramp, right? It was like, particularly I would say Turner. I would say more than Murph because he's a little bit more power. That sort of fits it a little bit more. His defense is probably Murph-like. It's probably fair to say. But he's playing third, right? So you can hide a guy over there a little bit more. I agree. I do think he's actually he's a valuable tool to kind of keep on the team. It does sort of feel like, he's at a spot where they have a little bit of depth. So if you did have to move a piece, give some value to get some value, then he might be a guy that would potentially go. But like, if you wanted to decide between two guys, and would you want to keep Davis or Rosario? You probably want to keep. To me, you probably want to keep Davis. I've kind of got Jimenez, who's already a better fielder than Rosario, who's kind of regressed. And hitting wise is actually kind of getting close in the last year. Normally guys tend to continue to improve their hitting as they get older. So um, yeah, so that's that.
I had to make a little
Should we
beverage.
talk a
I had
little?
to make a little beverage adjustment there.
Should we talk a little Yanks, or you want to keep rolling on Metsies in the outfield?
Well, I think.
Would you want to
Well,
hot stove it a little bit, or
well,
go
I,
for
I
the
just
Metsies?
sort of my closing thought on that would be, I think if you sign Springer, it becomes a little easier to part with and a little more sensible to part with Davis if you're going to part with him, because that
Okay.
gives you another right-handed bat with some power that slots somewhere in the lineup that's not right next to Pete Alonso. But I
Mhm.
do think that your lineup looks a lot better with both of them in there, especially
Yeah.
if you get Springer and he's going to bat in the top two in the
Yeah.
order, right? You're really starting to look very very nice. And if
Yep.
JD Davis is your seventh hitter,
Yeah.
like
And the
I'll let him play
defense is
third.
and the defense is so much better.
I'll let him play third all year. I mean,
Yeah.
righties, lefties. I
Yeah.
don't, I
I
don't
mean,
care. You're going righty lefty through the entire lineup basically at
yeah.
that point.
Go ahead. Pull the ball on DeGrom. Go ahead. Throw 99. You can hit down the hot corner.
Well, I
Maybe.
mean,
Maybe.
the lefties might.
Okay.
And by that
So,
time he's playing, by shortstop.
DD's like,
So okay, yeah. Do we wanna hot stove it? I mean, do we transition over there? I mean, do we just start talking right about Springer? And are there any other suitors? Are there any other destinations for him? Um, certainly not the Yankees. But if you wanted to talk about the Yankees, then the first thing you have to do
yeah.
is
So let's talk a little Yankee.
okay. So
Yankees getting no too overlooked here.
so if you're talking about the Yankees, right? The first thing that you really want to do, I think, is you want to break down who they have where, which position they might actually need, and then you can kind of filter out the bullshit about, are they involved in this guy? Are they going to get in on this guy? And they've surprised us in the past sometimes, like, hey, we have a great shortstop, but, we're going to sign a better one and move him to third. it, only
Might
because
have
the
heard
Red
that.
Sox just got him. Oh, the Red Sox just got A-Rod. Oh, let's get A-Rod. No, wait, the Red Sox. No, we're gonna get him anyway. We're gonna just change, time.
Yeah.
And then
Couple zeros.
Superman starts flying, the wrong way around Earth, and and then Bob's your
There you
uncle,
go.
and A-Rod's a Yankee. So,
There you go.
all
Who do you
right, I'm on
think's
the blue
probably
bottles now.
number one guy you got to bring back for the Yankees? The guys you have
Well, I don't.
coming off
I mean,
contract.
look, I think I love Tanaka. I love Tanaka. Um, and Uncle Paul doesn't want him on the Mets. You think he'd be a good Met? I,
He's a
I,
solid three.
I don't,
I think you can't go wrong with the guys at 3 or 4.
I
My
don't, I
opinion.
don't like. He has a good playoff history. It didn't happen this year for him, and he's definitely like at times it looks like he's regressed. But in this day and age, um, a lot of it has to do with how the guy fits, how he fits into the clubhouse, how he fits into the rotation. The guy's already going out, hanging out around town with, his wife and, Garrett Cole and Garrett Cole's wife. So they're already buds. Like having a guy like Tanaka it doesn't hurt you. Like he's a Yankee, he gets the Yankee way. He's zero maintenance,
Yeah, can play
zero
in New York.
maintenance.
I mean, that's huge, right?
So why would you not like we were talking about with the Mets, try to find me reasons why you don't want him back. And
Yeah,
the reason that you wouldn't want him back is because the term, not even the money, but the term would be too long and you feel like he's at the edge of the cliff and he's about to like really regress. In which
he,
case then, you don't
he's
want
got
him
that
back.
partially torn ligament, right? That you always live in fear, right?
Yeah,
I guess that's sort of probably the big worry to me.
is that really a fear? I mean, like
It's been
it's
there forever.
5 years ago.
Maybe he'll be there forever, right? And won't ever be a problem for him.
I mean, you have Severino
Yeah,
probably coming back, right? You
yeah.
got Herman possibly. Who knows what the hell is going to happen with him? He could leave. If I never saw him in a Yankee uniform again, I'd be fine. If he's back, I don't know. I'll have to do a little more digging and research to find out how bad of an ass he is. But I guess I've clapped for Chapman, so well, maybe I'm a hypocrite. Maybe I don't know. I mean, at least I'm not a Cowboy fan. I'm conflicted with every other guy, but you have some, especially with Severino behind Cole, right? He's gonna need probably a half year to kind of get up to speed, but at least you could have some kind of expectation for him at the top part of the rotation. And if you're asking me, if I have to choose between Tanaka and Paxson, I'm taking Tanaka 10 out of 10 times.
Yep.
Even though Paxson might be better, he might be better now, he might be better in a year, whatever. He's a lefty. I have much more reliability versus Tanaka, even though, again, I didn't really like what I saw so much this year, especially in the playoffs. He looked like he was, we were expecting 5 innings and a run, and that's not what we got. But he adds something to my team, and the further you push him down in the rotation, the more bang you're going to get for your buck because it's going to increase his effectiveness. So he's the guy I want back. I mean, then you start to look at the outfield, right? Clint Frazier is the guy that everybody always talks about is going to go in this deal, is going to go in that deal, is going to go back to the Indians in the Lindor trade and all this other stuff. He's not going anywhere. If anything, the guy might even be going to center field, right? I mean, like, and that was sort of like way back the original plan. Maybe we snailed a center fielder with this guy. Then all of a sudden he couldn't field. Then all of a sudden he can field, and he keeps getting better at fielding. Now maybe he's not a corner outfielder. Maybe we could play him in center. He's not going to be a 1 for the strat heads. He might be a 3, but in that lineup you could maybe get away with a 3 in center. So I don't think he's going anywhere. He's basically a guy that has bided his time. He's been very effective oftentimes when he's had a chance. He's had a little bit of the injury bug, but so has Judge, so has Stanton. Those guys are bigger names. A guy like Talkman is a left-handed bat. Brett Gardner, I don't think he's going to be coming back right at this point. So you need somebody to kind of fill that third and a half, fourth, and maybe fifth outfielder role, depending on how much you're going to put Stanton out there. I'm a big fan of putting Stanton in the outfield for 80 games if you can. I want him in the outfield every other game. The more he plays, you see he's not like they sort of slam him as being, he's not a good fielder. He's not bad. I mean,
It's not bad.
he's not
Hey,
great, but he's fine. And I feel like when he plays the outfield, he doesn't go as crazy like on the base paths and stuff, like getting himself hurt, like doing stupid stuff like that. Like just let him play. Like he did that for a long time successfully in Florida. I mean, and he had some injuries and stuff there too. But like he's fine. I want him more as a rotational fielding player and less as a full time DH. So to me, that sets up a lot. The first thing it does, if you're a George Springer fan, is George Springer's not coming to the Yankees. That would have to be a couple of mountains would have to move, right? Frazier would have to get traded in the Lindor deal. That would then set off another thing where if you trade for Lindor, you're not going to re-sign DJ LeMahieu because that doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. Unless you think that Gio Urshela was just a flash in the pan and you sign LeMahieu to play third and then you let Gio Urshela walk. I mean, so there's a few things.
That sounds like the Yankees.
Maybe. I mean,
we're going to sign all of them.
yeah, there. That's the other
We're
option.
We're signing all the second basemen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I look. Is it? I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, if they let LeMahieu walk, they could go back and just sign Didi Gregorius again and go back to where they were, and
Yeah.
put him at short and move Torres back to second. I think what is
I saw a great one on it on one of the rumors out there of Andrelton Simmons going to the Yankees
well, I mean, he's a
for like
superior
12 million.
glove.
I'm like, I gotta say that makes a ton of sense to me. Put Torres back over. I mean, if you're not, first up, I would just sign LeMahieu for the Yankees. I would just bring him back, right? I mean, guy hits the hell out of the ball, MVP candidate, second base, no brainer, right? I mean, if you decide like that can't work, whatever, like putting in a Simmons as a tremendous defender, and then moving Torres back to his natural spot as well. Boy, that really strengthens you right up the middle. That really helps out your pitchers too.
It's like the football equivalent of saying, you know what? Everybody thinks we need like a wide receiver or a linebacker. We're going to
Yeah.
sign like the sickest gunner. And like, he's like a gunner and like a punt return guy. Like, we're going to sign like our special teams ace. Like, that's sort of like the baseball equivalent to getting Andrelton Simmons to play shortstop for you because he's always in the conversation of best defensive shortstop. And, there's not that many guys that are in that
I would
conversation.
argue defensive shortstop is a little above the gunner, but more like a rock solid left guard.
No, but in today's major leagues, when you're the Yankees with all these monster bats in the lineup, and he's your certain number 9 hitter, right? I
Yeah.
mean, unless they,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, a
figuring you
great
about to
defense.
catch your 8th, right?
Yeah. I mean, a great defensive shortstop. I mean, how much better does that make your staff? Right. I mean, that's the thing is, I think if you improve both those positions defensively, right up the middle, that helps out the staff tremendously. All right. I mean, how many, maybe an extra double play is a series, maybe something like that. But that can change games
In
right on there.
in 2020 math, a series is just one game.
There you go.
All right.
As we deduced before.
The Yankees and the
Back
Indians.
to the
The
archives.
Yankees and the Indians embark on a 2.72 game series today. Wait, it's a
So,
doubleheader? No, they're just playing one game. It's
one
worth
game, but it's
2.7.
gigantic.
Yeah, it's worth 2.7 games in real life. But it's not
So,
worth as much because there's more playoff spots available. So I don't know.
yeah, we
You
didn't
know,
diffuse it. The diffusion index.
game value times pi equals 162.
There you go. All right, so
Maybe.
you bring back Tanaka.
I'm
So
bringing back to
LeMahieu. Actually, we skipped over to LeMahieu. So
Well,
what's your call on LeMahieu?
I mean, he's an
How far
easy
do you go?
he's an easy one to bring back. I just, the age and the years I'm worried about and not so much the money because it's not my money, right?
468.
I don't like 4 years. I'm going to be paying him when he's, 37 now. Like, do I want to do that?
37-year-olds can't play second.
No. I mean, they can if they. I mean, if they get
I mean,
suspended,
hey,
if they get suspended for a
don't
year
you-
for steroids, they can.
Don't you know? They hit 360. They can.
They'd
No
still be
problem there.
paying Robinson Cano if they signed him to that deal that the Mariners signed him. Think about that, right? They got out of that. Now the 5 guys after they replaced him, you're worried about like what this guy's going to do, and he's a few years younger. Like it's easy because he's a clutch hitter. Our pal Joe Serra pointed out it's a good study to look at DJ LeMahieu's year-by-year / career splits. And, as you would expect, right? Because he played the first, 5-6 years of his career in Coors Field.
Oh, this is the he can only sign the Yankees post. Yeah, I remember this post.
No, I look.
This is a ridiculous post.
It's not that. It's that his value toward the Yankees is probably increased because he hits so well in Yankee Stadium. I think that was really his point.
In front of Judge in the right field line.
Well,
and blah, blah,
it's
blah.
a sweetheart situation, right? I mean, you'd have to agree
Yes.
with that. It's a good
The guy
point.
still hit 360, right? I think he's gonna hit.
But
He's gonna hit pretty well
his-
someplace else.
His splits, Yankee Stadium 2 years versus road are like even more than what his Coors Field's home road split. In Coors Field, his last year,
The guy hits flying.
he hit 4 homers at home and like 11 on the road. His other numbers, his home numbers, like for average and on base and stuff, were better at home, but his power numbers at Coors Field were like nothing. Like they were lower than you would actually expect, to be honest with you. So I think there is a good point to that. I mean, if anything, I thought the point of Joe Serra's post was um, to just post something that would get us talking about him on Diamond Diehards, which is
I was gonna say, what, is he our new sponsor?
it's been absurdly successful at that tonight.
Wow, well seated.
Yeah, and I know that.
Veteran attorney Joe Serra.
But by the way, Dog and I are
203.
Dog and I are in separate locations in New Jersey. Joe Serra could get to each of us within a half hour. He can. Joe,
Yes,
I know
he
you're out
can.
there, baby. Oh, baby. Joe Serra. The Joe Serra segment of Die Hard. You gotta love it.
We've lost them all now.
Yeah, we're done. This is our historic first, multi-live stream thing. By the way, Jerry Milani's a god. We're going to talk about him later.
Yes.
If not for him, this doesn't happen. So, the value of LeMahieu to the Yankees, I think, is arguably, if you're a Yankee fan, it's worth paying a little more to get him, to keep him from going somewhere else. Let's just say that. I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair.
Honestly, I think 468 is actually a reasonable one for the Yankees to pay.
I'll go.
For guys in the MVP discussion, that's a reasonable number in my opinion. For that guy.
I'll go 360. I'll take an $8 million.
You and I had this whole time value of money thing going on, but okay.
I'll give you $20 million a year to take one less year. How about that? We got that?
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, if I'm the player, sure.
So as the player, you'll take $8 million less.
I'll take 360, sure.
So
especially if you're dropping the last year of $8 million, sure.
Well, it's 468 versus 360.
360, yeah.
So how much is 468 a year?
17 versus 20. Yeah.
17.
I think so. 16
19?
to 64. 17. Let's say 4. 68, 15, 17.
17. Okay. 17 a year.
Only CFA.
So I'll give you $3 million. I know, but
bitch.
But I'm so convincing that I made you question yourself.
I'll be honest, I did have to recalculate it again. I'm pretty sure it's 17. The little 80 on the end.
I just pulled
7/4/28.
I just pulled a fake news media manipulation 2020 on you, right on live stream. So I'll pay you $3 million more a year to take one less year. If you're the player, are you doing that? You're doing that if you know that you can get more than $8 million a year at the end of that deal, right?
I'm taking $3 million and putting it into Amazon. I'm going to clear it all.
I'm
gonna pull a reverse Madoff.
For the
Tesla.
For the 20,
like I should have had kids do.
You'll make it all during the 2024 pandemic.
That's what Cohen would do. I'll tell you, Steve, you'll make it back. You want to play that game with Stevie? Okay.
What did Jeff Bezos' value increase by $70 billion during the pandemic?
Like to hell with him. How about Team McKenzie? Team McKenzie did pretty well too.
Yeah, but I just want to know what pandemic Jeff Bezos is planning for 2024.
Goosed up there a little bit more.
Should be a good one. Lockdowns. Lockdown 2024. Okay.
Lockdown.
Base hit. Okay. So you say 468. I say 360. I want the one less year. You don't care because it's the Yankees. You're
in the zip code. I think the Yankees can make that. I mean, the Yankees to me as a franchise. I mean, you should never. If it's that close, if he's the player for you, you should never be in a position where you can't bring that guy in. And it seems like that's a reasonable number. That like the Cano deal is one of the few where you say, you know what, this is just nuts, and the value simply isn't there. I think for LeMahieu, I think clearly the value is in that sort of zip code. The Yankees are a franchise that can afford to pay the right player, the right money.
What if he really slips defensively, not offensively, but defensively? You really have no option of where to put him. He can't DH.
Yeah.
You're not going to put him really at first because you got all these,
Yeah.
these other. I mean, Luke Voigt won the home run title
Yeah. I
for
mean,
you.
if he's a different player, then you know you made a mistake and you got to trade him to someone else who doesn't have the same sort of resources, and you probably need to eat some money.
Mariners.
Yeah, I mean
We'll give
that's
it.
the Yankee way, right?
We'll
And
pay it.
honestly, that's the huge advantage of the big market teams, right? If the Mets did it 10 years ago, they'd be riding him out there hitting 230, and it sucks, right? If you're acting or funded like a big market team, you can move on past that one mistake or that one, you know, circumstance that changed. The guy didn't live up to the contract that you wanted, and you got to bring the next guy in. So, I mean, that to me is what would have to happen. But there's no evidence of him doing that, right? I mean, you're not signing forever. You know, we're talking 3 years, 4 years. I mean, yeah, if the guy wants a 6-year contract, well, okay, that's a little different situation, right? So that's when we're even the Yankees like, I don't know, I'm not paying to 38 on here, even though you're hitting great now. But I mean, a 3-year, 4-year deal, 17, 20, somewhere in that sort of zip code. I think that's a reasonable number for the Yankees to put in there and still be able to put a good team around it.
If you say so. It's
So,
dog's money.
exactly.
It's the dog's money.
We'll take
All
care
right.
of it.
So now, what do we try to do? Do we try to do more hot stove here now?
We go through the rest of the Yankees. What else we got here? So we
Well,
got Tanaka. We got
yeah.
Tanaka, LeMahieu. We got Sanchez. Let's talk about Sanchez a little bit.
Oof.
What's going on with the Sanchez?
Well, that's another big decision you got to make, right?
That's a toughie.
I
That's
mean,
not an easy one, in my opinion.
well, it's not an easy one because of what reason? Is it because you have somebody pushing him? Well, I don't know. We didn't think we did until Kyle Higashioka became, not only Garrett Cole's personal catcher, but also the better offensive catcher of the
Yeah.
two and the better defensive catcher of the
Yeah.
two. But
But you believe it in a short season, right? And do you believe a guy Sanchez who has hitting prowess? His fielding's never good, right? But he's certainly hit well enough that you can look past it for an awful lot of the time. Do you go and throw that away? I mean, that doesn't grow on trees in catching.
okay,
Right?
at what point do you start to say he's Mike Zunino without the defense? That's what it is. I mean, that's what he was last year, right? He
Well,
hit
I mean,
homers.
last year is terrible. I mean, that's me. It's a tough one right now. I mean, if you're just looking at last year, sure, you just dump him, right? Because he sucks. If he can't hit, his fielding is sketchy. A position where fielding's important, but if he could be serviceable and give the offensive upside, he's a huge weapon, right? So the question is, which Garrett Sanchez is it going to be? That's why I think it's tough. Like you don't know. Like is his offense finally regressed back down to maybe he's never going to come back to be the great hitting catcher that you thought he was going to have, and he's just a guy who sucks at catching and hits well, but kind of no spot for him, and he's ruining the rest. He's basically the opposite of like Adam Simmons at shortstop, right? He's now bringing a catcher who brings down the rest of your staff. Can he hit enough to overcome that? I don't know. That's why I think it's tough. And to give up a good hitting young catcher.
Well, at this point my catching philosophy in 2020 and 2021 going ahead.
Yeah.
I want one guy catching 100 and I want the other guy catching 62. Okay, if it goes to 101 and 61 or 102 and 60, something in that area. And I'm not even talking about like one guy catching 120 and the other guy catching 40. Like I think it starts to make a difference, especially when you get into September, where you just haven't put the mileage on these guys. And I think a guy like Sanchez could benefit from being one of those guys. And if you let it play out between him and Higashioka, like who's going to end up the better of the two? Based on last year, it would have been Higashioka in a runaway, but you don't know what would have happened in those last 100 games, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, am I rushing to get Real Muto in a Yankee uniform? I've thought about it more than I expected to this offseason. But I think that there are easier ways to piece together guys at catcher than having to spend, a big nut back
Yeah.
there. Like
And you don't want those years.
I sort of feel like catcher, and I'm, there's Monday Night Football is happening at the same time we're doing Monday Night Baseball, Hot Stove. So I'll keep up with the football references because to me they make sense. Catcher today in the majors is like running back in the NFL. It's great to have a great one. It's awesome, to have the best one in the league. And, if you do that, obviously you have to pay him, right? And they deserve it. If they're the player that, is the best at their position, then absolutely they're worth it. The thing is, you could always find other guys that you never heard of, kinda, that come in and can play the position acceptable enough. Maybe not up here all the way, but here, and you mix a couple of guys together and you could get kind of close. But instead of spending this, you're spending this on them. And if they're not performing, it's easy to move on from them. Whereas if this guy, the Real Muto, if you sign him, right? And he doesn't perform and he's a catcher and the chances are that the catcher attrition rate, when the guy stops like performing, he's not going like this, he's going like this, right? When it's done, it's kind of
Yeah.
done. And okay, we have guys that it doesn't happen to, but it happens at catcher more than any other position. You
Yeah.
have an outfielder, you have a center fielder, if you're signing George Springer now, you know that in 4 years you're gonna, he's not gonna be playing center for you, but he's gonna still be pretty decent in left or right, wherever you want to put him, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to have those positions log jammed for the long term because of that. It's easier to move on from a deal like that and still get production out of it. At catcher, it's like, okay, we're putting all our eggs in this guy's basket, and if it's Mike Piazza, I mean it's a pretty easy decision. If it's Gary Sanchez, are you paying Gary Sanchez on a long-term contract right now? No, God,
Yeah.
no. But 2 years ago, were you thinking about it? Of course. If they were, look what a lot of these teams have started to do, dog. They've taken these players that they have, control over for 4, 5, 6 years in some cases, and they're signing them to long-term deals to push them a year or two past their initial free agency, and they're giving them tens of millions of dollars to do it. Gary Sanchez would have been Exhibit One
Yep.
and would have signed a deal like that if he was on the Anaheim Angels, the
Hmm.
LA Angels of Anaheim. Would have signed Gary Sanchez to a 7 year, $70 million something deal, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they have 2 years ago?
Yep. It
And
would have
right
been.
now, they'd be looking at each other like, what
Oh
the
my God.
hell did we do?
Yeah.
I hope to God that this guy could come back, but let's keep throwing out, these Jeff Mathis type guys to fill the gap, so our pitchers don't just completely revolt, or that Trevor Bauer will actually
Yeah.
look at us when we offer him, $300 million over 10 years, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it's interesting, like in terms of relative value, right? Like in catching, to how much more you have to pay. I mean, I guess sort of like kind of back to the money ball sort of aspect of it, right? Like the key thing in catching to me is how does that catcher affect your pitchers, right? It's sort of like number one in terms of things. So if he's got a good arm, can frame pitches well, not a lot of pass balls, whatever, all those things contribute to making your pitching staff better, right? Which is a huge part of the game. And it's like you look at their hitting on the other side, it's nice, but again, to me, that's very much a second category versus being a good catcher to start with. And like to your point, like to pay up for a Real Muto to get, let's say, I don't know, 30 points, 40 points of OPS, let's say over like a McCann, Real Muto's got a little better defense too, right? So it's not quite straight up, but like the amount you have to pay up to get that extra 20 or 30 points of batting average or something like that for a catcher, is that really worth it? Like going from an 8 million contract to I don't know 12, 13, 14, whatever the guy's going to wind up getting. A catcher, that's an interesting. Like, can you make that up? Like if you're in the Mets, like you say, what, I get McNeil who hits 320 as a second baseman, which is way higher than most other guys. So you know what? If my catcher hits 230, but Thor loves him, and he can actually throw, and because Thor's got that +4 that everyone can run on, but he's got a good arm, and DeGrom's got keep a guy from stealing second base on DeGrom, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, you know what? The guy hits 220. I don't care, right? I'd rather have that guy than the guy who's hitting 280, but he lets those guys steal on the other guys. Because you know what? I'm going to get one extra run along the way, but like every guy who gets to first when Syndergaard walks somebody is going to wind up on second with the other guy. That's an interesting one. That whether or not that's worth that differential, like 250 to 280 a catcher, you may wind up paying a lot more than going from like 280 to 310 at another position. Right? Because how many guys hit 280 a catcher? Not a lot that are actually good catchers, too. I mean, that's pretty rare. Right? So you may wind up overpaying for a little bit extra offensive performance at a position that's not really typically that big of a deal.
How much is that 280 really worth?
Yeah,
like look at
100%.
the Rays with Zunino. I mean, he hits 170, but every time he hits a homer, maybe they win that game, right? So
yeah,
and he hits a lot of homers. I mean, he doesn't hit like a league leading amount, but compared to other catchers, his homers are a strength, right? He just doesn't hit anything else ever. But like in the games that he hits a homer, they're really hard to beat. I mean, I didn't look up the numbers. I'm just saying that, in a theory, whenever you get anything out of him, what he's giving you behind the plate is first and foremost, and he's giving you a lot. So, it's another guy the Mariners are probably paying the Rays.
like Ramos was like a great example, right? Like where Ramos, he was the best hitting guy to the Met that was in the offseason that time. The Mets paid up to get him. They thought they were getting like an average to above average catcher. Wound up getting a below average defensive catcher. Did well offensively, but you have to say the contract was a disappointment, right? So the sort of key for the Mets to me is having a good backstop is most important because they had good pitchers generally throughout the staff. And you've got enough hitting elsewhere that you don't need to get it from there.
That's the difference. Like when they signed him, they didn't have as good of a lineup as they have now. You hadn't had Alonso emerge. You didn't have Dominic Smith as an asset. You had, Conforto being inconsistent, where one year, somebody says, oh, this is the type of guy that can win the batting title. Then the next year, this is the type of guy who can win a home run title. And, now you have a guy who's a rock solid middle of the lineup, left-handed hitter who's going to, be in there against everybody. Before it was like, oh, what do we even have? So
can you face a lefty? Yeah.
So now you don't need that offense from the catching. But really, the Mets actually sound like they need Gary Sanchez. If we really break this,
pretty sure that's exactly the opposite of what the Mets need.
No, I mean, he has a good arm.
The Mets need Tony Pena. Is what they need.
Yeah. They need Tony Pena.
They need
could probably,
Yadier Molina 3 years ago. That would be.
Well, he's another guy. Okay, so let's talk about Yadier Molina. There was a good case made that the Cardinals should just sign, Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina because that's exactly what they need. Like Wainwright was probably their best pitcher over the 60-game season. It certainly wasn't Jack Flaherty because he wasn't ever pitching. Because he was on my fantasy team and
killing Riz's fantasy.
Didn't do shit. But Wainwright was really good even at whatever 38, 39, whatever he is, and Yadier Molina still provides all those things that you're talking about at catcher, dog. He still does that, and he's still offensively. Like,
I would not be bummed at all if Yadier Finn Molina on the Mets. I don't think he leaves. I don't think either one of those guys actually leave the Cardinals after all this time at this
I
point.
don't know,
I mean,
but
I'd be surprised this late in the career, but I'd take either one. I think either one slotting great. I mean, Wainwright fits like a glove, especially with like Syndergaard just come back from injury and whatever. I'd love to get Syndergaard on the Mets. I mean, I'd love to get Wainwright on the Mets.
I mean, he's the perfect guy to pitch right
Oh,
after DeGrom.
yep.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah,
It's like
like you're
totally
like,
different.
is it gonna be 100? Is it gonna be 100? Is it gonna be 100? No, it's not.
Is it going to be 80? Is it going to be 68?
I see, like pulled into like the light pole, the light tower.
Fouled off of his kneecap again.
38. Yes, I know he's old, Uncle Paul. I'm not saying sign him forever. He's 38. Uncle Paul's killing me over here.
Oh my God. A year you could sign him for.
He's killing me.
1 year, 90 million.
I don't know.
Stevie wants him. Stevie wants him. He's gonna get
is a little aggressive.
him. Stevie wants him. He's gonna get him, baby.
Oh man.
Oh boy. So yeah. So those guys have value to any team that's a now contender.
Yes.
And if you're talking like I think especially like Yadier Molina, like he would fit on the Yankees if you were gonna move on from Gary Sanchez, and you were just gonna trade him for whatever, and you signed Yadier Molina to be your 100-game guy, and Kyle Higashioka to catch Garrett Cole's 32 starts and then 30 other starts from whoever, like you'd probably piece together a pretty decent catching
Yeah.
staff for yourself, and and then in the playoffs you wouldn't have any controversy because you have the guy who's played probably as many playoff games as any catcher in history. I think he's got the record going away, and now he has more than Posada, but I mean there's a lot of teams that ought to be fine with him back there. It's just a matter of does he want to move on after spending 28
Yeah.
years with the Cardinals? Can't fault him if he wants to stay. You can't fault him
28.
if he wants to leave. It might
Yeah.
be, dude. He probably came up when he was like 14.
He's a little aggressive.
9-year-old Yadier Molina is the best of the Molina brothers catchers.
Pretty sure it's not quite that far.
He's already playing in single A.
This is like no guy can catch over 35. Meanwhile, 38-year-old Yadier Molina,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
or the other guy. How about Suzuki? That guy, every effing time I see that up there, I'm like, I can't believe this guy is still playing. I'm like, and he's fast as hell, and somehow can still play catcher.
And he's getting better.
He's like a freak of nature. That guy.
He's getting better. Kurt Suzuki.
It's like insane. Like it's like, oh yeah, he's just there's like get a key hit whenever it tortures you. I'm like, and he's fast and he's okay at catcher. I'm like, jeez.
It's not that he's fast. It's just that he's not catcher slow. So
Well,
he
yeah.
seems fast.
Yeah.
But
Fair
he was
point.
one of those catchers that in this new advent of baseball was like he was like a catcher that batted leadoff, which is something that we
Yeah.
hadn't really seen before, and he was one of those guys that fit that bill and took a shot at that. I mean, look, what are you going to do? There's guys that are out there, and so many of these dominoes are going to fall. I just wonder how quickly they're going to fall, and I wonder what teams like the Angels are going to do, and how much the Dodgers are going to move in the offseason. But let's talk about the Cubs for a second, dog. Theo
Good
Epstein
one.
moves on, right? They have this whole idea that out there that it's better to leave a year too early than a year too late. Clearly, this would be a year too early because the Cubs were just in the playoffs, right? And I would have probably projected them over a full season to be either right there or close enough, to be in some kind of contention. The Kris Bryant trade rumors are everywhere, right? He's doesn't look anything like he was when he was the MVP, but they still have a lot of guys on that team, and they still
Take a
have the
shot.
coffers to kind of, you know, reload rather than rebuild. I mean, you have the
Yeah.
great. Hold on. Now this works better because we have the live stream. We have cousin Anthony. Wait. Oh, I don't want to do that. Wait.
There we
Oh,
go.
I
You got
gotta
it.
use the black
There you go.
background above my shirt. Cousin Anthony. There you go. You can see it. Cousin
Nice.
Anthony, who will be on the show this off season at some point.
Just doesn't know it yet.
He doesn't know it yet, but he will be
He
joining
will.
us. And you have Javi Baez,
Nice.
and um, like that's a really good start to like anything that you need, right?
Yeah.
You have some good catching there, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so you have three pretty good pieces already,
Yeah.
and
And Bryant. Yeah.
well,
Bryant's a third. I mean, I think he comes back, right? So.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like the way that when you read these articles, I mean, it seems like a fait accompli that he's going to be dealt somewhere. It's just that what do you get for him? I mean,
Well, I guess that's sort of saying like rather than like break up the team and stuff, right? Because so saying like if you go on Bryant, you might as well blow them all out. I mean, not really, like cousin Anthony's still young, right? So I mean, he'd be a guy you could keep still around.
I don't
But
know.
like,
He might be older than Bryant.
is he? How old is cousin Anthony?
I don't know.
Didn't
Let
think he
me
was
let
that
me
old.
go get his baseball card.
I gotta. I'd say I didn't think he was that old.
Let's check his
Let's
baseball
check.
card right now.
Yeah, we gotta check that. Check that, Mikey.
Of course, the font is too small for me to read. Here,
Sucks
dog.
to be old.
How old is he?
You're asking the wrong guy. I just the five handle
Wait,
too.
let's see.
No. Yeah, it gets all smudgy now.
He's
I don't
some
know.
amount of.
Anyone at home who wants to call in and tell us?
He's several years old. Okay, we'll look it up. I think he's 30.
I didn't think he was that old. Hold on. All right, you keep talking. I'll do the research.
Uh,
Where's the producer?
31. 31.
Brian. How's Brian?
And Bryant,
Bryant. Typed it wrong. B-R-Y.
Bryant is 28.
Yeah, right. Good call. Good call.
Rumors connecting Nationals to Kris Bryant, potential trade. Red Sox
Red
discuss
Sox.
Kris
How
Bryant.
about the
seen
Red
as a
Sox
left
at Kris
fielder.
Bryant? It's bizarre.
Schwarber.
Selling off everybody now, they're adding Kris Bryant. That'd be odd to be a left fielder.
I mean, he's played there a lot already.
I guess, but you're gonna put him in front of the Green Monster. I mean, that sort of seems weird.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the same as playing third base.
The big thing behind you, you bang off of.
Yeah.
Dong.
Boy, he had a shitty year last year. 206, 4 homers, and 131 at bats.
Yeah, 60 games.
And, well, he only
Right.
played 34 of them. Ouch.
Yeah.
But, the year before that, 282, 31 homers. The year before that is what people have the problem with. 102 games, 272, 834 OPS. So you're looking at a guy who's making, almost $19 million a year. And, he's rolling up an 834, a 903, and then a 644. Yeah, I mean,
I can do that with JD Davis.
yeah. Well, that's the criticism, right?
Right.
That's the criticism. But then you got to look a little deeper, and you got to say, okay, what was the position last year? Third, 27 games, 4 games in left, 2 as the DH, and he even played a game at first, which obviously you don't really, need him to do that. But he showed off a little bit of versatility. I mean, he's played.
Or he's just hurting.
That
just sounds like he's hurting, right?
He's played 623 games at third and 172 in the outfield. 111 of those in left. So he's even played 10 in center. He's only started one.
It's like throwing the dog out there in left, right?
Even
you could throw him out there.
he played an inning at short once. That qualified him for Boomer's strat team in 2016
There you go.
when he won the MVP.
He's a 4.
He's a
George
5.
Brett.
5E
George
max.
Brett.
5E max.
Now he played an
Playing
inning. Playing an inning. Come on now.
Yeah, 5E max. You're playing him. I don't think I'm ready to move on from Bryant if I'm the Cubs.
I think that's a bad move.
Again, like
You're not going to get
18
value.
million, 18.6 this year it was. I don't know. I mean, He's 28. He should
I
still
think move on.
be.
Yeah,
He should still be. Able to give you that 900 slugging.
yeah.
It's OPS rather. I mean, hell, if he slugged 900, that would be
I
something.
mean, that'd be all right.
Yeah, take
The
that.
but
Did,
yeah, man, that just sounds like he was hurt a good amount, right? So if you only played like 34 games and
well,
60,
and
something
I
going on.
think
There's something going on there.
I think the criticism is that they
I remember
worry
something. I can't remember what the problem was.
they
That
worry that he doesn't have a position. That they don't like him enough at third, but like that just became a Joe Madden thing, right? Like where Joe Madden just played him, like he wanted to move him around, he gave him some versatility. I don't know. I mean, is that a bad thing? It's not really a bad thing, but like let him play third for the most part. But yeah,
yeah,
it's basically J.D. Davis at that point. If
yeah.
he's not, but J.D. Davis has never won
It's
an
not getting
MVP,
19 million. Yeah,
and he's not
True.
getting 19 million. So, right. So
Yeah,
that's your there's your
that's the counter.
there's your double your double flip side there. So I don't know. I think if you're the Cubs, there's really probably no reason at this point to move on from Kris Bryant. I mean, unless somebody's just gonna blow you away with a deal, like I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I know there's a lot of rumors, but I'm gonna have to vote no. I'm gonna have to vote no on that one, dog. In the end, that's my prediction for the offseason. He opens the season as a Cub next year.
I agree.
You agree? That's
I
not
agree.
exciting.
I agree. I agree.
That's not exciting.
Sometimes I agree with you. Not all the time we go
You know
check
what
on
is?
checker.
You know what is exciting? That the Mets on November 3rd quietly signed Malik Smith and Jose Peraza to minor league contracts with an invitation to spring training.
There we go. That's very
And you
exciting.
think that
I
I'm
like
being
the
funny?
6'7" righty though. The guy throws like 98.
Yeah, that's a
I
Rays
don't know.
type of move, right?
Yeah.
So will other teams follow the Rays lead here? And, teams with more resources just signing these guys with different arm slots and guys that just throw 98 no matter what and just try to stock up on them? Or will they just focus on guys like Trevor Bauer and try to put all their eggs in the Bauer basket?
Yeah.
As for the other free agents, we talked about LeMahieu, but what about a guy like I mean,
What to Gregorius? Where's Gregorius going?
he's a lower level guy at this point. I mean, he's not. Marcus Simeon's probably the best shortstop, free agent
Yeah.
out there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't have the year he had the year before, but he's,
Can still hit a ton.
yeah, and he's really good defensively too. So you got him, you got Marcelo Zuna, right? I mean, yeah, I guess and then you have some of the closers like Liam Hendricks, who's found his
Yeah.
mojo later on.
Relievers look very. I think that's when I've watched like more and more. I'm more and more convinced like you're supposed to get that like 2 inning plus guy who's like a 1 year 5 million, 1 year 6 million guy, and just get like 4 or 5 of those dudes, and you hope that you hit on 2 or 3 of those guys because it's so rare that you get a guy who's good and repeatable in the relieving core.
So if
And
you're
like,
if you're
and that guy makes a ton, but everybody else, yeah, maybe 5 million.
so if
That's
you're
some stuff.
if you're Jed Hoyer and the Cubs and you have your 5-year deal now, right? You're thinking along the same lines as I that you're going to try to stock up on those guys, right? Maybe
Yep.
the Cubs make a play for Bauer. What about that? I mean, is he
Be
like?
opposite the way they're talking, right?
Well,
I mean, it
I know,
could.
but I mean, they also were talking like Theo Epstein was running the show a week ago, and now he's not. Maybe
Yeah.
Jed Hoyer
If
loves
Theo
him.
left, so they would sign Bauer. Be a little odd. I guess they saved 10 million. So I don't know. There you go. Trevor's a little cheaper in the first year. Save it on the GM.
I mean, that's one way to do it, right?
Yeah. I don't know. That'd be an interesting one.
I mean, so say you sign him, right? And then you back it up and you sign like Jake Odorizzi. now all of a sudden, like, do the Phillies? I mean, the Phillies. Do the Cubs look a lot better? You know, when you do that, do they?
Sure.
You know, if you get a bounce back year from Bryant, Rizzo gives you what Rizzo gives you. Baez, you know, was on the brink of an MVP himself recently. You know, then you go and you try to stock up some of those relievers that you talked about. The
Yeah.
Cubs bullpen has been shaky over the years. They seem to bring in all these guys under Theo, and you know, by the time they get to the end, you're like, okay, who's going to close games? Maybe they don't have to play like that anymore. Maybe in this new era, they get those guys, and those guys throw 2, 3 innings before, and then whoever happens to close out the last inning closes out the last inning.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
What about a guy like Justin
We're still,
Turner?
we're still working on Diamond Diehards. We're working on the off season
I think
on
we are.
the optimal pitching staff setup.
I
So
think we are. What about Justin Turner? Is he automatically back to the Dodgers? What if the Dodgers say
I would
screw
think
it
so.
and they trade for Kris Bryant?
Ooh, that's a bold move right there.
Well, it's possible, right?
Possible, right?
They don't have to go back
Turner's
to
not going to be
Turner.
there forever,
Yeah.
right? And you know, I mean, it's funny. Like, well, it's like you take a shot on him and then say, you know what, you let Jock Peterson go, who was like your big dog, but has been kind of eh.
Well, you traded him once last
So
year, and they rescinded the deal. Just keep trading Jock Peterson. Well, he's a free agent, so you can't trade.
yeah,
Sign him and
so
then trade him.
exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Turner's not obviously the long-term solution there, so you could say take a shot on that. But yeah, I would think Turner would slide back in there. But yeah, I mean, he's another great man. Like if you're you know one big hitter away or something like that, and you want to go for it for a year, he's not a bad guy. He's gonna come in and not a ton of money to get you there.
Listen, you want to hear something funny? I forgot about this. If
Only
the
4 bombs
Yankees,
last year. I was actually a little surprised. I thought Turner had a little more. Turner normally has a little bit more pop. He
he
was
had more
actually
in the
down a little bit.
he had more in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, right?
Yeah, so I think so.
So this was like something I thought of. You know, when the Cano thing happened, and then everybody was like, "Oh, now T.J. LeMahieu's in play for the Mets." Blah 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 blah. I was like, you know, then like watch the Yankees let DJ LeMahieu go to the Mets. He goes to the Mets and becomes a bust.
It's
And
280 as usual.
Joe Sarah predicts it, right? Like all of a sudden he, you know, then Cano comes back and you have him and Cano to play and neither guy can play the position, and now you're spending like 30 million between them. And the
It's a
Yankees
not during double play.
and the Yankees sign Colton Wong, and he hits like 40 homers in Yankee Stadium with that like short lefty stroke, you know, and steals like 30 bases, you know, like I mean, the Yankees would have options like Colton Wong if you slotted him into second base for the Yankees, like he probably wouldn't be the worst guy that you ever tried that with. I mean, you could
Yeah, I think.
probably do that and get away with it.
Yeah, I think there's more options. It's funny. I was kind of looking down. Like first base, there wasn't a ton, and there was actually I kind of thought there was actually more options at shortstop than second base even this year. I mean, you kind of had like you got like LeMahieu, Cesar Hernandez, and Hechevarria, sort of like taking a step down.
That's a big step
And
down. That's like
yeah, I'm not saying. And I mean, and
that's like
Wong.
the
I guess
step.
Wong gonna be in there. Wong gonna be above Hechevarria or
That's
above Hechevarria there. But
that's the step
like
down
that's
that
kind of it. I'm like, it's pretty light in second base.
that's the step down
Like
that
you're letting LeMahieu go. I'm like, you better replace it yourself.
that's the step down that Brian Leach took off the Rangers team bus and snapped his ankle on ice a few years ago.
It's a bad step.
That's a
Yeah.
bad step, my
Yeah,
man.
I mean, even like LeMahieu to like everybody else, honestly, is like a big step. And then yeah, down from there, it's not good. It's not good. I mean, short, you have a little bit more. I mean, you got Gregorius, you had I can't remember your freaking name again. Semyon, right? Semyon, obviously,
Semyon,
right?
yeah.
So Semyon, Gregorius. I think also we got Owens. Simmons, I think is. I don't know. I don't know who the last guy is.
I think you should
I
call
can't remember my own writing.
I think you should call WFAN and just propose a trade that the Yankees get Fernando Tatis.
Yeah, it's pretty much about
Oh
that
yeah,
time of night.
can we trade Jacoby Ellsbury for why don't we trade Jacoby Ellsbury for Fernando Tatis Jr.? First of all, because Ellsbury's not on the team anymore, and second of all, we seem to
This
have
guy's not.
lost you.
This guy's on my team, Miguel.
Yeah, what are you doing? This guy's
You're
already on my
trading my
team.
guy to me. Wait a minute.
Gosh.
All right, I think I gotta walk. I think I gotta walk the Diamond Dog.
Okay. All right, so that'll wrap it up. We've made live streaming history now. We've actually done this where you could hear us at least
Theoretically,
at least after the
whether you
first,
liked it or not.
at least after the first 2 minutes.
So,
And we did, of course, the Facebook live stream seems to be always pretty good. That was working. You just don't find it on the Facebook group. You find it on the Facebook page. It's a little easier. Facebook.com/Diamond Diehards, Twitch.tv/Diamond Diehards, YouTube. Just look up friggin' Diamond Diehards on there. You'll find us. Twitter.com/Diamond Diehards, at Diamond Diehards on Twitter, at Diamond Diehards on Instagram. We're making it easy for you guys. It's not just about baseball. We're having fun. We're having a couple of beers and drinks sometimes, maybe, allegedly. I don't know if that's really happening. I don't think that's really happening. Those are just props. Those are just props. Those are not
except for
actually.
the dog. The dog's drinking.
No, those are just props that we're saying. We're not getting kicked off of anything for doing that. It's
Kicked off.
2020. Like,
Okay, kicked off at Oregon.
yeah.
It's smoking crack in Oregon to me, all right?
I just can't wait to drive by Dog's house on Thanksgiving and be like, how come each time I keep driving around the block and each time I keep seeing a different person standing outside his house and they keep holding up a sign, I'm the 11th man. You gotta put the 11th person outside.
Sorry,
your
Diamond Dog. You gotta hit the bricks.
Yeah. Sorry, Diamond Dog. You count as a person. What?
You're out.
Why do I
You,
gotta
the
go
turkey,
outside?
someone's gotta go.
You're the
It ain't
11th.
the turkey.
You're the 11th person, Diamond Dog. Why am I a person? Because you're always on Diamond Diehards. You're like a star. Yeah. So yeah, follow us everywhere. Check out the live streams. Spread the word. If LinkedIn. We're even on LinkedIn. We have a Diamond Diehards
There you go.
company
We're all
page
business.
over there. Follow us over there. We business. We business. We didn't talk about that much business tonight, except for the fact that we talked a lot of business and a lot of finance, and I made Dog question his addition skills and his division and subtraction and
Multiplication.
multiplication, right, on the contract. Oh,
Dog was right, though.
that was you was right. You was right. That was a classic moment, though. I did get you to question yourself. Question everything,
Couple
Will.
drinks.
Question
Couple drinks.
everything, Will.
I'm used to my Excel. I don't do anything in my head anymore. Sure
Where's
enough.
that button to me? What?
Calc?
Babe, what button do I use to make this make it into a sum? It's the sum button, Dog. It's the sum button.
Ooh.
Though.
Hello.
Wait.
Sigma, though.
If this was a three-way, how would that work? Okay. So.
More on that later.
Yeah, more on that later. So this is also the part where we praise Jerry Milani, who has worked
Yes.
tirelessly with me offline to get this working. Eventually, so we tried the stream.
Multi-channel Milani. That's what we call him.
We tried the stream last time, and you couldn't hear Dog. And then it turned
Which is
out
probably the best thing for the show.
it turned out well. We fixed that though on YouTube. I uploaded the YouTube video of it, and then replaced the live stream one, and then I removed the Twitch one, and Twitter. Nobody cares. Okay, nobody cares. So, but this time we figured it was actually a setting on Zoom that we figured out was preventing
Zoom's problem.
the
Yep.
people, and then there
figures.
was something else that I had to do. But
Zoom. What's Zoom worth? Like 100 million? 100 billion?
today it just went up in
there you go.
in the course of that conversation.
Promo.
Thanks to Jerry Milani, massive help for us to get to do this. I was gonna hit him up and have him come on with us, and I know Uncle Paul's looking for him to come on, and a few of our other fans want Jerry back on. So we'll try to plan it out, and we'll get Jerry on and not have to like rush him or push him past his bedtime. We could have done it tonight, but I didn't. I didn't want to press the issue with him because he's been so good to us. Thanks to Dominic Rizzo and Xavier Rizzo, Rizzo Automation guys, monitoring stuff online and helping us get some of these things set up offline and then monitoring it while we were online tonight and helping bring you the voices that you hear right now. So thanks, guys, doing that in the basement studio down there, which is nicer than the studio I'm in, which is not even a studio. It's just me on the background, but I went to the higher quality camera tonight. So there's that. That was because Xavier Rizzo recommended me do that. The camera on my monitor is better than the camera on my laptop, so I had to switch everything around and try to figure all that stuff out. So thanks, guys. RizzoAutomation.com. Check them out. If you're local to the area here, that's definitely like a friends and family thing at this point, but you could check it out if you'd like. Maybe that counts as one of our first sponsors. So the other thing to do is pulling an Uncle Paul, which is called you watch parts of the live stream, you bounce in and out, but then you want to listen to the show in its entirety and get the whole mood of it. So you check out your phone, you open up your podcast app, you subscribe to Diamond Diehards there, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, that's where you go. Find us, subscribe. 5 stars, 100 stars, whatever it is. If you want to write a review, we're all about the love at Diamond Diehards. So we encourage you to do that, and that's going to help us grow as well. So you got all the social media, you got all the subscribe, download stuff, and you got the dog and I. That will wrap it up from different parts of New Jersey. And one day we are going to do this. Once this whole thing settles down, I think Dog and I maybe we'll even sit together and do some of these shows and have a little bit more fun that way. I don't know how we could possibly have more fun than we're having right now, but I think we will find a way. So, in any case, and all cases, that is going to do it for Monday Night Baseball with Riz and the Dog doing the hot stove. For the dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.